Hard times create hard men. Hard men create soft times. Soft times create soft men. Soft men create hard times.
In the heart of the slums of Sao Paulo, Brazil, a champion was to emerge.
We're here right now. All of a sudden, the police can come, open a fire, and we have to go to one of these houses to hide ourselves and wait until
it finishes.
Right. And sometimes it lasts long, 12 hours, 10 hours. Crazy.
You can see this wall here, there's busted bullet holes.
Born in the slums of Brazil, Alex Pereira had no expectations for his life. He dropped out of school at the age of 12 to help provide for his family, getting a job working in a tire shop, while other kids were playing with their friends, enjoying their youth, and gaining the educational opportunities that allow for a promising career later in life. Alex was working 10 hours a day at a dead-end job just to make ends meet. He didn't play with other kids because he didn't have any friends to play with. Instead, he only hung out with the adults who worked with him at the shop, who would constantly drink on the job to help get through the day. As you can imagine, this wasn't the best influence for a young and impressionable boy, resulting in Alex soon getting peer pressured to start drinking alcohol each day himself, because everyone else around him were alcoholics. For nearly 10 years, he lived this way. By the age of 16, he was drinking a bottle of rum every day, plus a few beers, and would find himself in multiple bar and street fights as a consequence.
If you're suppressing masculinity, you're going to bring on hard times. Masculinity doesn't mean you're mean. It doesn't mean you're angry. It means strength. It means discipline.
Alex Pereira, on the track to die young and broke, knew he had to make a change in his life if he ever wanted things to get better. Now 21 years old, he decided to pick up kickboxing. He wasn't an instant success, but his coach saw that he had potential to be one of the greats if he decided to put the work in. However, because he was so poor, some of the people at the fighting gym didn't want to allow him in. His coach had to negotiate a scholarship for him because the monthly fees were higher than what he made at the tire shop. Alex's coach said that when he started training him, he would drink a liter of white rum, known as cachaça, every day, and when there was none of that left, he would put alcohol in his coffee instead. It was kickboxing that started to turn this around for him, and maybe even saved his life. Encouraged by his coach, Alex also started to connect with his indigenous heritage, being a descendant of the Pataxo tribe, with the aim of bringing back the spirit of his ancestors with dance and getting involved with tribal traditions. From that moment on, he got the name Powhatan, which in his native language means hand of stone because, as an amateur fighter, he won 25 matches, all by KO. It was when he decided to turn pro. He stopped drinking alcohol completely as he realized he had to in order to reach a higher level, and even up to now, he hasn't touched alcohol since. It was his fight with Dustin Jacoby in 2014 that started to gain Alex traction, winning the Glory Middleweight Contender Tournament.
Your winner, now advancing to the Contender Tournament Final, Alex Pereira!
Here comes a new challenger. In 2016, he had a fight with Israel Adesanya, who had not yet started MMA at the Glory of Heroes event in China. Israel held a record of 75 wins and 5 losses in his kickboxing program, while Alex had only 13 professional fights with no long win streak.
Alex Pereira!
They went on to fight again in 2017, with Izzy dominating the first 2 rounds.
Pereira's not the fastest guy at that weight class. Izzy is so much faster when it comes to striking.
When it came to the 3rd round, things changed.
But all he needs to do is touch you. Just a tip.
This was Izzy's first time in his whole career he had been knocked out. This also marked his last kickboxing fight, as he went on to fight MMA in 2018, jump-starting Alex Pereira's reign of dominance in kickboxing. Defeating Simon Marcus to win the Glory Middleweight title in the same year, and defending the title 5 times. Before winning the Glory Interim Light Heavyweight title in 2019. Then in January 2021, he beat the former Light Heavyweight Champion to become the first fighter in Glory history to simultaneously hold 2 belts at the same time.
You start to fail, you fail more and more rapidly. But it also means that as you start to succeed, you succeed more and more rapidly.
His highlight reel is so wild. His flying knee is monstrous. He's knocked a bunch of people out with flying knees. And then he gets on the top of the ropes and screams like a monster.
That's that completeness. That was a...
Despite beating Adesanya in kickboxing, Israel had gone on to join the UFC, where he gained massive fame and wealth, while Alex continued with kickboxing, reaching the highest level he could. But kickboxing just wasn't nearly as popular, so he never earned very much money, and no one really knew who he was. Israel was dominating the middleweight UFC division, being seen as the best middleweight striker alive, with no signs of being dethroned anytime soon. And the only man that ever knocked him out was still stuck trying to make a living with kickboxing.
Undisputed! Quick night at the office for the champion, Israel Adesanya! Too easy! Too easy! He's too good, wow!
Hence, after a total of 33 wins and 7 losses in kickboxing, Alex Pereira signed with the UFC to try and take Israel Adesanya's title.
He follows them to a different sport. He hunts them down. Where do you get the motivation?
That dude is a legitimate ancestor of people that were like tribal folks in Brazil in the Amazon. That's superior genetics, son.
Pereira's first fight in the UFC was against Andreas Michailidis. At Alex is one of the most celebrated kickboxers of his time, but when it comes to MMA, it is not just about striking. Andreas knew exactly what he had to do. Wasting no time, he went in to tackle Alex and took the fight to the floor, exhausting him as he defended the whole of the round. Although Andreas couldn't get a submission, he also ended up using a large amount of energy. If Alex was going to win, he had to stay off the ground. His lack of experience in grappling as an MMA newcomer put him at a large disadvantage. However, in striking, Andreas would not be able to compete. So in the second round,
That dude's made out of mahogany. You touch him, he feels like wood.
it was over. Just like that. Alex would then go on to face Sean Strickland. If Alex wins this fight, he will be matched up against Izzy to challenge him for the Middleweight Champion belt. Sean is the only man standing in his way.
Man, this is going to be an easy fight. I see everything this guy's throwing. I'm getting the better of the exchanges. I'm going to beat this guy up for 3 rounds. And then halfway through, I got caught.
After that fight, they have seemed to actually become friends with no hard feelings at all, with Alex inviting Sean over to his gym to spar together. Though we are lucky, as Westerners, to have won the geographical lottery, been given the most opportunity and access to luxury than almost anywhere else in the world, it is important not to take this as an opportunity to sink into pleasure, but instead to embrace duty and responsibility. Alex Pereira is the embodiment of the phrase, hard times create tough men. This doesn't mean you have to move to a slum, take away all your money, and deprive yourself of food for a few years, but you do need to have a goal to achieve, and whatever that thing is, you need to ruthlessly try to become the best at it, leaving nothing left on the table, and most importantly, remove the things that have no purpose in your life and are only done in a pure pursuit of pleasure.
You don't make men safe by making them weak. In fact, they're much more dangerous when they're weak because they'll stab you in the back when they get the chance, or take advantage of you when they get the chance. You make men safe, let's say, by making them strong and then by making sure that they're disciplined.
Through the adversity Alex Pereira experienced, he achieved a state of equanimity. This is the ability to be calm and composed, especially in difficult situations, and is famous for his stoic face that is unfazed by pretty much everything, something that he attained through the challenges he got through, giving him an overwhelmingly strong sense of confidence in his abilities and himself. It is this that made him feared by other fighters.
He's fucking terrifying. He's a scary human being.
Did you see the size of the fella? I've been face to face with Israel, and it's surprising to see, like, Israel's pretty big. He looks tall and lanky, but he's actually a big dude. And then you see Pereira up against him, and just his facial features are bigger. His feet and hands and forearms are massive. I'm just thinking, like, who let this guy in?
And his fist is like literally both mine put together.
It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Doesn't mean that you can't be kind if you're strong, but it does mean you can't be strong if you're weak. If you're weak, you're fucked.
As Alex Pereira rose to fame in the UFC, he never forgot where he came from. When he heard about the area of the slums he grew up in getting damaged by rain, as the shacks people lived in were so poorly built, he drove over there with a food truck to support the people.
É uma guerra, mas eu acho que não desistam nunca, pessoal, porque as coisas são difíceis, mas com fé em Deus as coisas vão melhorar.
Now, back to the ring, as yet another battle awaits. Finally, the fight to contend for the middleweight title belt against Israel Adesanya, who is undefeated in this division. Given their backgrounds, both showed a very high level of kickboxing in the first round. Izzy rocked Alex in the closing seconds of the first round, but got saved by the bell. In the second, Adesanya tried to get takedowns, but failed both. Alex also tried a takedown and was successful, turning him around. But in the third, things changed as Izzy dominated. And in the fourth, Adesanya was scored to win through unanimous decision victory. Halfway through the fifth round, the ref stopped the fight and Alex took the victory after stunning Adesanya. In only 4 fights in the UFC, he was made the undisputed middleweight champion, putting a stop to Izzy's reign.
É pedaço foda.
And then, less than a year later,
to go into a UFC championship fight. It's also very difficult to go into a UFC championship fight.
Again, the hand is so dangerous.
Oh! You're right from Adesanya!
You should be a monster. You know, because everyone says, well, you should be harmless, virtuous. You shouldn't do anyone any harm. You should sheath your competitive instinct. You shouldn't try to win. You don't want to be too aggressive. You don't want to be too assertive. You want to take a back seat and all of that. It's like, no. Wrong. You should be a monster, an absolute monster.
And then learn how to control it.
And honestly, you're a great champion. And forever. Doesn't matter what anyone says. You're always a champion. You're always a champion.
Isso aqui ninguém respect you. Ninguém vai tirar. Isso aqui nunca ninguém vai tirar. Esse é levou. Esse aqui não.
Obrigado.